Coming out in the Idaho 4 case involving the absolute tragic loss of those 4 students from the University of Idaho. And the information to me is incredibly heartbreaking and devastating, absolutely devastating. We're getting more and more through some of the papers that have been filed. This trial is scheduled and I believe will go forward beginning this summer in August. This is going to be a huge, huge case. The defense is fighting every single issue. He has claimed his innocence, not saying they can't prove it, saying he is factually innocent. I have heard that from the defense. So this is going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. The evidence may seem overwhelming, but once you get into the courtroom, you have to win every battle beyond a reasonable doubt. So every little piece of information that we learn is extremely significant. And what we're going to talk about during this podcast is important, eye-opening, heartbreaking, and devastating all at once. Hello, everyone. This is a special Wednesday edition of the Tangent Podcast. No Tangent Podcast this Friday. I may be flying solo, but with me, as always, Albert Wunsch III.
Viva la Tangenistas.
And the radio legend, Jonesy.
Good evening, good afternoon, good day.
Wherever you are around the world, this is the Tangent Podcast.
Vinnie and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast. Vinnie has the blue eyes, Al cracks the jokes. Jonesy stays behind his shades, entertaining all the folks. It's Vinnie and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast. Load up all your comments, hit those super chats. Let's go smash that like button, so we can all have a blast. Vinnie, Al, and Jonesy on the job. They're the Sugar Hill Gang of true crime. They're telling stories of days gone by. They take crime and turn into a good old time. It's Vinnie and the Tangents, True Crime Podcast.
All right, welcome. Usually that is the soundtrack to Friday. This week it's on a Wednesday. We wanted to make sure we got a podcast in this week because Al is going to be, are you going abroad?
No, I'm not going to be abroad. I'm going to Atlantic's Frantic City, heading down to Atlantic City to lecture all of my brother and sister lawyers on the latest developments in criminal law in the state of New Jersey from 2024. So I'll be lecturing on Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay, so
if you're in Atlantic City, Harris, stop by.
Stop by Harris in Frantic City to see Al. So obviously a lot of people right now are focused on what's happening in Dedham, Massachusetts in the Karen Reed trial, which is a huge case. But we've got another huge trial that is getting ready to go this summer. It is scheduled for jury selection in August. Of course, it's the Idaho 4. We're talking about the 4 students whose lives were taken. This is a big one. It's a D-Pen trial. And this one, this one, what you have to understand is the way it's being litigated very aggressively by the defense. Like obviously Karen Reed, very aggressive as well, but there the case is different. It's much different in terms of people knowing each other. This is an alleged stranger, an alleged cold-blooded stranger who attacked that night. And we do know that there are surviving roommates from inside that home. And that's what we're learning more information about some of the things that were happening that night and how it all went down. So I wanted to, and this came from some recent filings in the case. So I wanted to put that up on the screen real quick here. I think this is the first one. Is this the first one? This is the first one. Okay. So I'm going to read it, and then we'll go through the significance of this as well. So after spending the evening out, the roommates, Dylan, Bethany, Kaylee, and Madison, returned to their home at 1122 King Road in the early morning hours of November 13th. At approximately 2 a.m., think about this, it's just 2 hours prior to the home invasion and what happened. They met up in Kaylee's bedroom, talked for a while before going to bed. So 4 of them are upstairs at that time. Now, the 5th roommate, Xana, who was out with her boyfriend, Ethan, was not home yet. So you have the 2 surviving roommates, Dylan and Bethany, with 2 of the victims, Kaylee and Madison, 2 hours before the attack, upstairs in Kaylee's bedroom. Xana was out with Ethan. The roommates debated going out to a food truck for a late snack, prompting Dylan to send a 2:10 a.m. text to an Uber driver she knew to see if he was driving. Ultimately, they decided to just go to bed. So let's start there. So all 4 are home before Xana and Ethan end up back in the house. But at 2 a.m., they are debating whether or not to go out again. And if, in fact, they had gone out, had made the decision to, oh, okay, let's go, that may have completely changed everything that night.
A good possibility of that. But they're going to a food truck, so chances are they would have picked up the food and brought it back home. So you're
But
right.
the food truck is more than just a truck. It's almost like a social event.
No,
The-
that's true.
yeah.
I understand that.
I don't know if you've seen the
in a lot of
video,
homes.
but initially the video, the food truck guy actually live streams. And initially in the investigation, we had seen some video of them near the food trucks earlier that night. And that might be one of the reasons why they didn't go back. But what do you think of the timing of that? If they decide to go at 2:15 or so to the food trucks, I think they might stay awake later. They might not go to bed at the same time. And how does that change everything along the lines? You know, like, would he still have done it if the lights were on upstairs and Madison and Kaylee were still awake at 4:10?
Well, that does change a number of different things because, obviously, if they're all in the room together and they're awake and they're talking and the whole 9 yards, there's lights on, and it's not a fertile ground for someone to come in to assault or red rum anyone. So could that have set things in a different?
Would that have been enough deterrence? Would that be deterrence?
You know what?
Jonesy, would you think that would have kept the invader out of the home if he comes by at 4:10 a.m. and the lights are on and it's obvious that there's activity and people are awake inside the house?
I think it probably would have, because he would have been outnumbered and wouldn't have the element of surprise. But it would, as Al said, it would change so many different factors. Might he have not come back on a different night? So maybe there would be different victims involved. And some who survived may have not, and some who didn't may have survived. But I think the guy, whomever did this, I think was eventually going to give it a shot.
Well, I don't know if you're going to go into a house, if you see it's all lit up, okay, and that there's people, that are in there and you hear voices and things along those lines. I think you're going to be a little less apt to want to do anything, untoward with regards to the same. Too many witnesses, too many people up, okay, and the element of surprise is gone, obviously, because you're not going to be able to surprise a room with that many people in it if they're all sitting there eating and communing. I mean, maybe they're eating in the kitchen, maybe they're eating in the dining room. I don't know where they would have been consuming, but also the food would have had them up a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think so too. And you talk about the element of surprise. What we learned from, and I heard an interview with Kaylee's dad, because he's been privy to a little extra information that he revealed, that when he went upstairs, Madison was the first victim,
Right.
and then Kaylee woke up and was punched, before attacked with the weapon.
Yeah, that's the first time we're hearing that, and that came out of the I'm assuming out of the grand jury testimony, and I saw the same interview you saw, Vinny, and I mean, just and he said, he goes, so all of you out there that are thinking this Kohberger is a really good guy, she was punched in the face. And
which tells me he purposely went in a moment when he felt that they would be vulnerable and asleep, so there would not be the resistance, because just the sheer number of resistance, right? If you go into a home and there are people awake and they see and they hear this guy dressed in all black coming in the home, there's going to be some screaming, some yelling, and it's not going to go down. And
right, and one's going to get out.
And how much further past 4:10 a.m. are you going to wait? Because I don't know what time the sun rises there, but I mean, you start getting into like the 5 a.m. hour. Is he just going to call it a night and then perhaps try on a different night to engage in this?
Well, that's the interesting question, as to how this house was picked. Had this house been targeted? Information that had been going on with regards to his study of this, things like that are fascinating to think about, because obviously it's not random. I mean, you don't randomly pick
Right.
a house and do this kind of a situation, especially with his background and everything else. It doesn't make any sense that this would have been a random thing. This was a target. It had to have been a target. He knew where they were. He knew what he was looking at. He knew what he was dealing with. So under those circumstances, you're right. If it gets later in the morning, then there's also more people out.
Yeah.
You've got people going to work. You've got people doing, getting into school early, things along those lines. And then he's going to be less, he's going to be vulnerable to being surveilled as he's trying to get out.
It's also more likely that somebody in the house would have gotten to the gotten around to calling 911 too, if people were stirring about and this happened.
Now, what's interesting also, you talk about, because it takes place on two different floors, right? So there's the floor where everyone believes he entered and exited, which is where the kitchen is. There's the bottom floor, and the bottom floor is where you had Bethany. Dylan is on that middle floor where Xana is. Now, Xana, and there had been I think it was an Uber Eats, one of those delivery services, makes a delivery of food just prior to the home invasion. And this dynamic has me very, very confused as to how this went down, because I would think if they got a delivery, they likely were not sleeping, Ethan and Xana, if they had just gotten this food delivery. But they are, I presume, behind closed doors, or I'm not sure exactly what they are doing, what they are hearing, and if they're noticing anything. How long it taken for them to consume the food, and if they were eating it in the room. Like that part is not clear to me yet, but that's another part of this, because we do believe he goes upstairs first, and that's where Madison and Kaylee are. Then on the way down, before he exits, he ends up in Xana's room, and that's where Ethan and Xana are. So it's two people there. Obviously, they're sort of trapped and stunned and shocked, I'm sure, by someone wielding this weapon. But I've got to think they may have been awake.
That's a hard one to call on. And as we see, there's so much information that has not been revealed, and that even that little excerpt we got with regards to the grand jury testimony and about the, one of the victims being struck in the face and being punched. There's a lot of information that I think we're going to be getting out. They'll be getting out sooner rather than later on this, and we're going to know what was going on and what was happening. There's no doubt in my mind that they have been very, very careful to not release a lot of facts on this case, primarily because of the active defense that has been, on top of them with regards to prejudice, with regards to his Asperger's syndrome, with regards to all of these different things that they're doing to try to protect their client, which is perfectly, fine. I mean, that's their job. They're trying to keep the lid on a lot of this stuff, and that's great. That means that the trial is going to be fascinating.
I'm trying to figure out, and I think there had to have been some level of like the opening of the door. There's a reason for him to go to that next door. Like, was his purpose to take out everyone in the home? Because he didn't. He didn't, because Bethany and Dylan survived. Bethany downstairs and Dylan on the same floor as Xana. And Dylan is the one who saw the intruder dressed in all black with just the eyes and the bushy eyebrows exposed. And I'm wondering why she is spared and exactly what happens in the when Ethan and Xana are taken out. Now I'm going to show you some more information here. We're getting more information about the scene from all of this. So let's get to a little bit more of it as we move on here, so we get to see what happened. Now, during the exchange, the foregoing exchange, and what they do is in the papers, and we talked about the text messages going back and forth that night. Dylan attempted contacting Ethan through Snapchat. She again tried calling Kaylee and Xana, but neither responded. Dylan then exited her room and began running towards Bethany's bedroom. On her way, she noticed Xana lying on the floor of her bedroom with her head towards the wall and her feet towards the door. And I think this is around in the 6 o'clock hour. Okay, so she sees Xana on the floor of her bedroom, but what is significant here is that the door is open. The bedroom door is not closed, so Xana is not behind the closed door there, and she's on the floor. If she's on the floor, that tends to tell me that she was awake. Doesn't it tell you that she's awake? Because if she was sleeping, she would have been like the other victims in the bed.
There's a possibility of that. She could have also fallen off the bed after, being attacked. She could have fallen off. Now that probably would have made a noise, but that's the other thing on this is that, I had surmised that the reason why maybe the other two were not attacked was that he's exhausted. I mean, you go through with 4 individuals and with you're not using a weapon, a gun, you're using a knife.
Right. And there's some resistance in this. There is resistance.
And that takes a lot out of you. I don't care if you've got adrenaline or not. Okay. It is physically demanding, okay, to do what he did with regards to these 4 victims. He may have just been exhausted and wanted to get the heck out of there. Also, you've got a time factor. You don't want to be in there that long because the more time he spends there, the greater chance he could be discovered or he could have, be pulled out.
Now, this brings us to something else. Do we believe that the other 2 victims were intended or there was some confrontation on the way out where he notices that they see him and maybe, I don't know if something is said, if there is like how that goes down, but why does he go to that second room was the purpose to go upstairs, Madison, Kaylee, and out, and on the way out, there's a confrontation?
That's a very good question. I mean, I think you go to the top because that also is a little more controllable. I mean, there's one way in, one way out, right? So, maybe he's got the control on that with that floor.
And the other thing is with that bedroom is when you go behind the complex and there's a parking lot behind, when you have to go, there's an apartment building next to it. You go up that driveway, but then you can kind of veer around behind where the home was. And because this home was very unusual, it was 3 levels built into a hill, that when you got to that parking lot, which is sort of on the top of the hill, you could see directly into the bedrooms upstairs. So I think you had a much better idea of what was happening in there if you actually could see the people when the lights are on, and then you would know when the lights were off.
The only entrances led into the first floor, I assume?
There's 2 ways to get into the home. There is a sliding door that is that's the middle level where Xana and Ethan were and where Dylan was. That's the middle level. And that, to get to that, you either park in the lot in the front and go up the hill, or you come from behind and you go slightly down the hill, and then you go to a patio and then the sliding doors. The other way in is on the bottom level where Bethany was, and that is a regular door with, I think, a combination lock. No one believes you went in through that way. Everyone thinks it's the sliding door, and I think everyone believes that the sliding door was left unlocked.
Well, I'm just, thinking of his order, and how he went. I would think that you would want to, if you were taking out an entire house of people, you would start with, the floors in which they could exit, and then the final floor is trapped. Of course, everybody has like communication via phone and all that kind of stuff. And who knows how much thought went into this and how much was passion gone awry. But I would think you secure the exits.
And to do that, you would go second floor first and then go up to the third floor. But everything that I've heard, everything I believe is that the third floor is where he goes first. And apparently Madison is the first victim, and then Kaylee, who was fighting back. By the way, Johnny Knoxville watching today. Thank you, Johnny Knoxville. Great to see you, Vinny. Thank you for the great unbiased true crime coverage, and thank you for the support, Johnny Knoxville.
Very nice. Hey, John.
Johnny Knoxville as an outlaw country on the Satellite.
I don't think this is the actual Johnny Knoxville, the MTV star and the
right. That's why I asked.
Yeah, but I think he's a big fan because I didn't see a check mark per se.
That's why you go to the top floor first. I think you'd use the top floor first, and then this way you work your way down. It's like you've got a captive audience on the third floor. Second floor's got a way of getting out. So, that it was, I guess, a luck that they were still down there for the purposes of second floor. But if you're going to be working your way, I don't think you'd want to do it the second floor first. I think that, you would probably.
Well, how does he control 2 awake people on the second floor? Do you think there's an instant attack on Ethan and just, ending him very quickly, and then going next after Xana? Do you think that's the way that was? Like there wasn't a moment of a confrontation and a discussion, just an attack on the man, and then controlling the woman, and then taking.
Well, you see, Vinny, it's like Fonzie. You take out the toughest one first. So presumably that is the male.
And my guess would be it would almost have to be like a quick attack, because because Ethan was a relatively big kid, athletic kid.
Yeah. He looked in great shape.
Great. I think there would have been a way for him to either distract or get him out of the way and allow Xana to run out.
Yeah.
But if he is quickly attacked, then there's no time for him to do anything. It's just there's someone, and then boom, it happens, and he's defenseless because he's not expecting any of this.
Well, you know, something was said in one of the interviews with one of the fathers that, you know, hey, this is Idaho. This doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
Okay. And I thought that was a very, very poignant comment. It's not, you know, there's not a lot of street smarts. There's not a lot of that, you know, you've locked your windows, you lock your doors. I mean, we've been taught that, you know, that living in the area that I live in all the time, you know, you leave your doors locked. Okay. And that, you know, this Idaho, we don't expect this. And I think that, you know, you don't know what fear can do. And the fear might have been like a deer in the headlights, and that, you know, he sees this and he doesn't know how to react to this. And the guy gets the drop on him.
I think that's the case. I think that's the case many times in these sort of situations is, you know, the state of inebriation is one thing, but also like you're not expecting anything to happen. So your reaction is not going to be what you think it is. You know, you can think, you know, if this happened to me, like when I was mugged years ago, people said to me, like, this is what I would do, Jones. I would do this. I would take this guy out this way and all this. You don't know what you're going to do in the situation until this shocking event actually happens.
Breaking news from Tanya Vincente. Thank you very much. And side note, Vinny, I have a huge crush.
Oh, get in line, Tanya.
On who?
I know 2 women personally who have a crush on Vinny and are always gushing to me like, you know, you know Vinny? And one of them's an ex.
Oh,
I don't know any. Okay. How about that?
Yeah, you should get out more often.
Well, yeah, maybe that's the problem.
Mingle when
maybe
you're
in Atlantic City, it'll be different.
Yeah, mingle when you're there. You'll find somebody. Then tell them, like, I know Vinny.
banging a gavel. Magnus Gerkison. Magnus is a new member over on the Court TV YouTube channel, because we are simulcasting today, ladies and gentlemen.
What?
Yes, we are on my YouTube, my Facebook, my Twitch, my X, but we're also on the Court TV YouTube channel.
Excellent. Today. The revenge of Jonesy after being let go by the former establishment which owned said network, Court TV. So many years ago, I'm back, baby. I'm like Damone Wilson, baby. I'm back. Anybody remember that one?
No.
Sitcom. Damone Wilson was in briefly. He went out for a pack of cigarettes, and the premise is he came back like 5 years later to his ex-wife and said, "Baby, I'm back."
Went out for a pack of cigarettes.
Damond Wilson? You said Damone?
Yeah.
Wilson?
Yeah.
Wilson.
Yeah, and he was also in the New Odd Couple, along with Ron Glass.
Wasn't he also in a little thing with Red Fox?
Yeah, Sanford and Son, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, that's why we speak of him.
Yeah.
Who recently, he said on a podcast interview, he said that he and Red Fox were always armed during the taping because of the live studio audience and the tumultuous times. You never knew when somebody was going to come at you. So he had like a weapon in his boot.
That's awesome.
You big dummy. I'm coming, Elizabeth. Oh, no, the big one.
And I got a gun in the hands.
How'd you like 5 across your face?
You're doing good, Red Fox.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Here's what Jeff H is saying. I think X was in the room on TikTok, E in the bathroom. X thinks footsteps coming. So he thinks Xana was in the room on TikTok. So she is looking at her phone. Ethan was in the bathroom. Xana thinks the footsteps coming behind her are Ethan, but he's in the bathroom. Ethan leaves the bathroom and finds Xana on the floor. Oh, that's interesting. I guess that's possible. I never thought that maybe they weren't in the room together at that moment.
That's
and that would
interesting.
also explain why the door might be open at that moment as well. That's great. Thanks so much, Jeff H. Appreciate that. So there's another part of this is that this is at 6:30. Remember, 911's not called to 11. That Dylan did see Xana lying on the floor of her bedroom. Now, Kaylee's father has been 1,000% clear that what gets him very angry and aggravated are people who are going after the surviving roommates, that they either are involved in some conspiracy or, could have done something here, right? There's nothing they could have done. These are scared young people that don't know what is going on. I think her gut was telling her something was terribly wrong, but I don't think her gut wanted her to acknowledge that. And I can understand that 1,000 bit. Like if I don't acknowledge this, then it's not really happening. If I don't acknowledge this, it's not really happening. And I think that's where their minds were. And I can understand that. And they had been drinking. So in her mind, she's saying, listen, Xana's on the floor. She must have passed out.
Right.
She must have passed out on the floor. But she did see her. And this is when she goes from the second floor down to the third floor from her bedroom to go down with Bethany. But she goes down to see Bethany because her gut is telling her something is terribly wrong, and they're scared, and they're really scared. And they did not know what to do, how to act, and how to react to all this. We've got some more of this. I've got another piece I want to play for you here. Let's take a look. Okay. Between 5 and 6:30, Dylan, I can't see it here. Son of a, I'm going to put it here. Dylan engaged in activity on her phone, primarily creating, editing, and deleting images and videos. And the activity then, again, I've got it blocked by all this stuff here. I can't see it.
Yeah, that's even more difficult.
That's an eye test. Her phone activity ceased, and then Dylan accessed Instagram for a few minutes. Again, accessed Instagram and communicated over Snapchat. She texted Madison. She received, and this is very indicative of this generation. This is how they communicate. This is how they socialize, even if they're in the same house.
It is odd to me.
But it's not. This is now how I communicate with my son who's living in this house right now. I won't Snapchat him, but I'll text him. I'll text him things, and you get a better response than when you go, Max.
Why don't you just climb up the fire escape?
That's my form of texting.
Like Norton.
Yeah, on the fire escape. So she's awake for all these hours. She's awake because she's on TikTok. She's editing videos. She's doing social media. She's communicating via Snapchat. She's texting, but getting no response. Dylan continued accessing various social media sites, including checking Ethan and Xana's Snap Map locations, like to find out where someone is. This is their first instinct. Well, where are they? I can go onto my phone and I can find out where my friends are, because we all that's the way we communicate. We know where we are, etc.
Is that something that's on all the time until you turn it off?
I think. And I'm not a Snapchatter, but I think you form little groups, right? Yeah. So it's a group of people who you trust. It's not the entire public. So within this group, you will share information that you might not share with the public at large, including perhaps your location. So
and they can distinguish elevation, like between floors, first and
I don't
second?
I don't think they can distinguish between floors. I think it's just a straight GPS where they are. So my guess is if their phones were on, that it would show that they were in the house.
Right. I agree.
So this is eye-opening about what was going on. Now there's more here that is, again, to me, what this does, to me, it's devastating because I understand the devastation in the house, and then the survivors, the ones who were in the house, plus the friends who came upon this scene, how their lives and everything about their being is changed in this moment. It's devastating. At approximately 11:50, Dylan called her friend EA and asked her to come over and check the house because she was scared. Again, this like the only thing I can compare it to is there was one time where, and I don't know if I told you guys this story, but we were moving into a new house. And it was like moving day, and we were bringing in boxes and stuff. And I heard a door slam in our new basement, like the basement door slam, and I got scared.
Yeah,
I called police. I didn't call the emergency number, but I called the non-emergency number. I said, "Listen, I'm moving to my house. The door slammed. I think there might be someone in my house. I don't want to go down there. When you have a chance, can you send someone over?" So they send someone over.
I don't want to go down in the basement.
I didn't want to go down there. I was scared. But see, from our generation, right, the reaction isn't call my friend or text someone or this or that. It is 911, call police, call the good guys with the guns.
Yeah.
Right. That's the way I was raised. That's my first instinct. It just is. And that's what I did in that moment. But it was kind of embarrassing because at the time, because we were moving, I was wearing one of those white T-shirts, which have various names that people call them, including wife beaters. People call them wife beaters. I don't know why they do, but and then so I'm just moving into the neighborhood. I'm wearing one of those shirts, and police are showing up at the house. Guess who just moved into the neighborhood?
Hey, you know what I would think? I try to be fair-minded and love all people, but you know what I would think if I saw that situation come down? Now you were a bad man.
I'm a bad man. I'm a
Bad
man.
mama jamma.
But I was just scared. So
Sure.
she's scared, so she's calling her friends. So they met DM and BF, Bethany and Dylan, at the bottom floor of the house. BF and HJ started to walk up the stairs to the second floor. When they reached the second floor, HJ went to the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. So think about it. The level of fear that they have, he's grabbing a knife because he doesn't know who's there, or she doesn't know who's there and what's coming. It is a he. When he came back out, Dylan saw Xana again for a split second. And I just started bawling because I thought she had I didn't even know. I thought maybe she was still drunk and all asleep on the floor. Bethany also saw Xana lying on the floor. And that's the moment. And this is when everything changes. And this is, now they're walking around the house. Some friends are there. One of them's walking around with a kitchen knife. And now they find it. Now, think about the situation, right? Now you're calling 911 and you've got a kitchen knife in someone's hand. Like, that could go south very quickly.
Bad. Yeah.
That could go bad very quickly, but obviously it didn't. Thank goodness it didn't.
May I digress for a second? Did we find out what was in your basement?
It must have been a wind draft or something that just made it go shut. You know, it was our first day in there, so we didn't know.
Right.
But yeah, there was no one down there. And the officer I said, "Are you sure? Did you check everywhere down there?" Yes. And then I had him check all the closets in the main floor as well. And then I said, I'm sorry, but and then the officer was nice. He said, no, you did the right thing.
Sure.
You did the right thing.
You did.
No, that's what they always say.
I
I got to tell you what they're thinking. They're going, "What a wimp." Okay. That's what they're thinking. What a wimp.
Well, I'm just protecting my family.
Yes. Then you should have sprung downstairs.
Well,
on your own.
We hadn't unpacked the kitchen knives yet, so I had
You don't
nothing.
need the knives.
I had
You go
nothing.
down there and
You know,
Knowing
potential
the fees, which were registered with the
FBI.
I got a
As
left
lethal
that
weapons.
kills, and I got a right that paralyzes. You choose. That's
Hey,
what
if I were an intruder in your place and I was in your basement, you came running down the stairs in one of those T-shirts. I can't use the name that we used to call them, but one of those white beater shirts. I'd be out of there fast.
Watch out. Oh, Mary D today. Thank you, Mary D. Albert, hello. Am
Hello.
I chopped liver?
I take
Yes.
it, Albert. Albert, you've ignored a message or something.
No, I
from
think
Mary?
that she's using a comment that I make when they send
Yes.
salutations to you or salutations to Vinny, and I'm neglected. I'm like, what am I, chopped liver here? Huh?
So where does that come from? Like, am I chopped liver? Like, what
Have
am
you
I?
ever had chopped liver?
That's like a good old Borscht Belt phrase.
So it's something that's unappealing. Chopped liver.
Well,
Is that
I would think so.
yeah, because like nobody really likes the chopped liver.
okay.
Okay.
Now, and Fonzie didn't either, right? Full circle, Jonesy.
Won't eat liver.
Of course
That's
not.
right.
Who would? Have either of you ever had chopped liver?
No.
Yes.
I never
Yes.
have.
And I
Yeah.
like liver. I like.
Do you
liver.
like it? What does it taste like? Chicken?
Well, chicken livers and spaghetti is an Italian delicacy. Okay, calf's liver is wonderful. Okay, so
I'm
I've had a
astonished
river of
that
liver.
We don't eat such disgusting things. We go right for the esophagus.
Do you eat the sweetbreads? The sweetbreads.
I didn't know. I used to think sweetbreads referred to like
Good?
desserts and sugars and stuff.
Oh no.
No, far from
But I
that.
found out. Oh my goodness! Oh my stars!
Oh my, oh my. All right, Jeff H is continuing here. Let's take a look.
Heavens to
And
murder.
then Ethan is ambushed as he's checking on Xana on the floor. Maybe Ethan is even saying, it's okay, I'm going to help you. Then gets hit by the kill. That makes a lot of sense, Jeff.
That would work.
That does make a lot of sense and could potentially explain how two people could be handled at once, because it was one at a time. And Ethan is vulnerable because he sees Xana and he is comforting her in the moment that he's taken out.
Yeah, it's almost like that scene in Halloween, the original movie, with the one girl's in the bed and then he comes in, she thinks it's the boyfriend, it's not, and then the boyfriend actually was already red rum before that and was like lined up against the door. I mean, it's a little reverse on that, but I mean, it is conceivable that she may have thought it was him, may have thought it was the boyfriend.
Yeah.
But it is such a horrendous crime. These four young people, beautiful young people, and with a full life ahead of them, snuffed out that way. It's just horrible.
No, it's bad.
And it's what's even worse is that when you see the pictures of them and how vibrant they were and how full of life.
Thank you, April Diaz. Have a great day today. Thank you, April Diaz. We appreciate everything you say. We all know she's a great fan, and we know the kind words she has. We always love to hear from you. Thank you, April Diaz.
All right, a big thank you. April Diaz is with us today and says that Vinny is the only person in my life who calls me by my whole name. I should add my middle name. Oh, I think we should guess April's middle name. What would be a good middle name for April Diaz?
Glockenspiel.
April Glockenspiel.
No, that's not it. Darn. Well, because there are certain names. Wait a minute. There are certain names you have to say the whole
Maria.
name. There are certain names like when I went to college, we had a guy named Joe, whose name was Joe Dowd. Okay, Joseph Dowd, but Joe Dowd. You would call him Joe Dowd. I never called him Joe. I called him Joe Dowd. Hey, Joe Dowd. It was that you give the full name. Hey, April Diaz. I mean, the name just fits that way.
I think a good middle name would be May, M-A-E, April May
No,
Diaz.
that was my original thought.
Yeah.
April, May,
But I
June.
went with
from,
Maria because that's a common middle name.
Maria. All right. Thank you, April Diaz. All right, let's get back. I think I have another little piece to show here. Let's see. Or this may be it. Let's see if this is the last one. Oh, I have one more. Okay. HJ told Dylan and Bethany to get out. EA, who had started up the stairs, also turned around after HJ instructed her not to come any further. They both went outside. Shortly afterwards, HJ exited the house and told them to call 911. He was pale white and mentioned something about someone being unconscious. So HJ is the first one, I think, who really realizes the gravity of what is in that house. And he's telling the other people, the three women there, get out, call 911. So this is the actual moment. And I think about the devastating moment this is for all of them to realize their friend is gone and something really, really awful has happened. Something that will clearly impact the rest of their lives. They're going to lose a big piece of, and I understand they're in their 20s and I understand they're in college, but there's still a level of innocence that they have, right? That you know, the world is their world is a great place. Go out there, go get them, and then this happens. And to me, it strips that away, and that is just awful. But this is the first time we're really understanding and getting a clearer picture of the moment. So HJ, who's the one I believe who grabbed the knife, sees what happened. He is clearly impacted by it and is telling everyone to get out. And then the 911 call happens, and that's where there's a lot of confusion. And we've listened to that 911 call where there's tons of confusion and fear, and it's not, you know, trying to communicate the information to 911 as they're responding. And think about what happened before this, though, because let's get back to the man who's going to be on trial. They say that he came back to the house that morning around 9 a.m. Could you imagine he did what he did, right? If you believe the prosecutor's theory that they've arrested the correct person. After doing what he did, he shows up the next morning and there's no crime scene tape, no emergency responders, no police, nothing. What do you think is going through his mind at that moment? Is he thinking that no one knows, or was it all a dream? Like, did it really happen? Did he come back for the knife sheath? Was that because if he's coming back for the knife sheath, if the police aren't there, he could have gone back in to retrieve it. Do you realize that if he had gone back into that house at 9, he could have retrieved the knife sheath, gotten back in the car and left, and this case may have never been solved?
Wow.
Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. Like, I don't know why he went back. If he went back because he's some sicko and he wants to see, what I did. But then he gets there and it's just another morning.
I know this is fiction, but I've learned a lot of things from TV in my life, fiction or not.
Okay.
But on TV detective shows and stuff like that, isn't a common thing to return to the scene of the crime for some reason? I mean, is that a real thing?
No, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And sometimes in some of the cases, they'll go to, in a situation like this, you might even see them at like the memorial, or at the vigil.
Wow. Yeah. Hence the authorities taking pictures and stuff and checking those things out.
Because you're talking about psychopathic behavior here. You're talking about people who are not motivated by some sort of personal vendetta or something like that. It's people that are just wired the wrong way, and they're doing it for reasons that we could never understand. But a lot of it is for the adrenaline rush and the thrill of what they're doing, and part of that is taking an artifact from there for some of them, returning to the scene, seeing everything unfold in front of your eyes. I think that's all part of it.
Yeah, like I did this kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, you say, what if he came and he retrieved the sheath at that point that he allegedly left? By the same token, what if he returned and the authorities were there and the investigation was full on? Like, how would that play out? This guy's like, cruising the neighborhood.
Well, he may not have stopped. Maybe he just would have driven past it and then said, okay, it happened, right? But at this point, I wonder if he even thinks that it didn't actually happen, right? Because could you be that messed up that you're debating, did I really do it? Did I do it?
I've had dreams where sometimes, like even later in the day, I have to say to myself, did that actually happen? Now, maybe I'm a little nuts. I'm not sure.
No. I've had, and this is the one I've had, and it's directly tied to my type 1 diabetes that I've been stricken with. Is a low, and this happened before I have all the equipment that I have now, but being asleep and dreaming and waking up and having a real low blood sugar, all of that happening made it really difficult for me to distinguish between the dream and reality,
and to know when to react and when to ignore.
Yeah, like what is going, like I can't, the only way I can explain it is that I could not distinguish the two.
Yeah,
the bright line that is usually there was gone, and my reality was woven in with how I was dreaming in that moment.
I think that makes a lot of sense, really, because it's real life seeping into your dreams, real life concerns seeping into your dreams. I'll sleep with the news radio on, and when I wake up the next day and think about what I dreamt, a lot of it was an offshoot of the actual news that was going on the broadcast seeping into my head. Like, this is your real life seeping into your dream.
Should me and Al make a recording for you to go to sleep to and see how it impacts you?
This is a tangent, but Major League Baseball, the channels in between innings, when they're not playing commercials, when they're not allowed to because it's out of market, they have this thing called Zen where they just play baseball noises, and I watch it and I think it's beautiful, and I would love to sleep to that. So if you could work that out for me.
Okay. Come back here, you rabbit.
People.
Jeff H is back. He is prolific today. Jeff H, few talk about the K-bar knife handle as a hammer. Could the K-bar knife handle be used as a weapon? I guess you'd have to have it in the sheath and hold it by the other end to strike. I guess that's possible. That's possible, and could be an explanation as to how the sheath somehow is gone and left.
It also makes a great handle to hang on to that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go back to what you were talking about with the was this coming back to see if it was a dream or whatever. So it's sort of like American Psycho, or Christian Bale. Was it really true what he was doing? Was it not true?
Right.
What was the situation?
Exactly. And don't tell me whether it was or wasn't, because I've watched the movie, but I don't think I've watched it all the way to the end.
You got to read the book, and that'll actually help you out on that.
Do they have books on tape?
Yes.
No.
Jonesy will read it to you.
I had a few friends who were really into that and the book, and may I say that they were both quite sick. They weren't bad guys, they didn't do bad things, but they had a lot of bad thoughts, and they were really into that book. So Al, I'd be careful of that.
I've read the book and I've seen the movie. That's where it ends for me.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Al, Verica 815, I have a crush on Vinnie too, watching you from Switzerland.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I hope you crash into a mountain. All right. I hope your Swiss Miss is poisoned. Okay.
Do they drink Swiss Miss there?
Instant cocoa.
Does it come with those little dehydrated marshmallows?
Well, who would take it any other way? Okay. Oh, jeez. Well, Ben, as we're getting to the point where I have to say, in history, with regards
to civil rights and all the revolution fights, World War I and World War II, I'll always knows who is who. It's this day in history, this day in history, history. Now let's listen to his story.
All right, what's the story, Al?
All right, well, let me just go back. Yeah, I mentioned that I was going to try to do a Rev War reference now that we're in the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War and the founding of our country. So on this day, April 30th, in 1789, George Washington was sworn in as President of the United States at Federal Hall in New York City.
New York City.
New York City.
Skyscrapers and everything.
That was the first capital. Sworn in, and he delivered his first inaugural address, which was never required, but he thought it was a good thing to do. It was 1,419 words. It took about 10 minutes. Now, his second inaugural address was a whopping 135 words. All right, so it was kind of got up there. It was a minute and a half, and he was done. Also, in 1900, on April 30th, for you fans of the Grateful Dead, Casey Jones, who was riding that train, died in a train wreck.
Ooh.
On this day in 1900.
Was that because
I don't know if he was high on cocaine, but he did have a train wreck.
Was the cocaine involved in that?
No, I don't believe so. But
so how did the Grateful Dead get there? Like, where did that come from?
You know that part where you have dreams, but you don't know if they're reality? That was probably the Grateful Dead.
If you're going to do train rhymes with cocaine, so if you're sitting there trying to figure this out, just go riding that train, high on cocaine.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I got
All right. April 30th, 1945. Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun commit suicide in the bunker. Okay, in Berlin. She took cyanide. He took a cyanide pill and shot himself in the temple. I
knew that date. You know how I knew that date?
Okay.
So a friend of ours was celebrating. There was a surprise birthday party for him. The big 8-0.
Ooh.
So his wife wanted me to put together like a little photo montage, and I didn't do a photo montage. I basically produced a documentary of his life. Nice. And he was born April 29th, 1945.
Oh.
The day before, because I looked up on what was happening at the time that he was born. I was like, oh my goodness. By the way, his father was in WW2, the big one.
Big one.
His father got called after his wife got pregnant. He never came home.
Oh.
So the man we were celebrating, his father never made it back. He never met his father. He ends up going to Vietnam, becomes a Huey gunner. He also wins a Purple Heart, just like his father. He comes back, unlike his father, and holds his child for the first time when he comes back from Vietnam.
Wow. Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, that sacrifice, that sacrifice for the country is just
absolutely.
It's awe-inspiring and humbling.
Yeah. That's how I knew about this day in history.
Well, with regards to Adolf Hitler, okay, the bodies were burned, and I had actually had the opportunity to interview 3 individuals who were in the bunker with Hitler, and that had witnessed the bodies being taken out, and I actually had them on a photograph show me exactly where the bodies were burned, and those 3 were Otto Gunsch, Trendel Gunga, and Rothus Misch. And so I had the opportunity to speak with them back in the mid 80s, which was fascinating to talk to them about what was going on in the bunker at that time.
Now, were they on that same team as that guy?
They were. Otto Gunch was a aide. Trundle was his secretary who
So the
typed up.
interview, are they locked up?
No. They were the three of them were in a Russian prison and were released. So they were there. They served time and then they were released from the Russian prison. But
And Russia was on our side for that one, right?
Yeah, well, that is true. We were allies, but originally the Russians were allies with the Germans, because when you take a look at what happened in September of 1939, when the Germans went into Poland, they went in on one way. The Soviets came in the other way. There was a non-aggression pact between the two countries, and they divided Poland.
Oh,
Right? So that's what happened. And then Hitler had believed that he needed the areas that are now in the war, okay, with what's going on in Russia right now, and decided to attack Russia and create a two-front war, which was basically his undoing. So Russians and the Germans were allies. They divided Poland, and the Soviets were just as evil in Poland as the Nazis were.
wow.
They executed thousands of Polish soldiers and then tried to blame it on the Germans.
Gotcha.
But that's another point. Also on this day, going to throw a little Vietnam situation for us. Fall of Saigon on this day in 1975. That's the South Vietnamese surrendered to the North Vietnamese. Saigon had been captured, and the war was over. And it was a horrendous kick in the where to the Americans that fought hard enough to die, but not given the opportunity to fight hard enough to win. Horrendous situation.
Rock in a hard place.
Right. So in true crime history, April 30th, 1927, in Alderson, West Virginia, the first female federal prison was opened. Prior to 1927, federal female convicts were required to be segregated in male prisons, which led to a lot of problems, as you could well imagine.
Yeah.
So they set up this prison. Notable inmates at this prison.
I believe in equal rights, so they should have a prison.
And they did after 1927. They had
their own.
Notable inmates that have served time there. Lolita LeBron was a member of a gang of Puerto Rican nationalists who.
How about Ma Barker?
No, but you know what? Machine Gun Kelly's wife was in there also because they thought that she was an accomplice to a kidnapping that he was involved with. But Lolita LeBron, listen to this one. Okay, I'm sure no one knows this. She was a member of a group of Puerto Rican nationalists who opened fire inside the United States House of Representatives and wounded 5 congressmen. Okay, and then she served 25 years. This was in 1952, I believe. And she served 25-year sentence, and then she was exonerated or commuted. A sentence was commuted by President Jimmy Carter. Also in that prison, Lynette Squeaky Fromm, okay, a member of the Manson family who had tried to assassinate Gerald Ford. She served 34 years there. And Sarah Jane Moore, who also tried to assassinate Gerald Ford. She served 32 years there. So that is our true crime in history today, and our in history 3 very, very major events in United States history.
May I add something that happened on this date, April 30th? If I have
Absolutely.
time. 1977, April 30th, I, with my first radio program's listeners, took a bus to Baltimore, Maryland to see a wrestling match. It was a program about pro wrestling because we got wind of the fact that Bruno Sammartino, after many, many years, was going to lose the title. He was going to drop the title. So we went out to the Baltimore Civic Center. I financed it by illegally selling bootleg posters outside of the arena. I was like 16 at the time, maybe. going on 17, somewhere around there. Superstar Billy Graham defeated Bruno Sammartino for the world championship.
And you were there.
WWF championship. Yes, I was there.
And isn't Superstar Billy Graham a Jersey guy? Didn't he live in the Jersey Shore? I thought he was from the Jersey Shore.
No, you're thinking of Triple D was his name.
Ken Patera, Olympic strongman.
No, you're thinking of a guy from the WCW who was a former bar bodyguard, Triple D or something like that, or Double D.
Johnny Knoxville. Watch the video of BK in court when the defense and state were discussing allowance of the Amazon history. He is very uncomfortable. And the Amazon history is relative to the purchase of the BK weapon in a replacement one as well. That's huge.
Diamond Dallas Page. Okay.
Diamond Dallas Page. That's correct. Okay. All right. That's the one. But there's also another one. The guy that was, oh, geez.
Bam Bam Bigelow.
That's right. Bam Bam Bigelow. That's right. Okay. That's exactly
DJ'd his daughter's wedding.
Really? Was he alive?
It's a long story. I was doing a live remote on the Asbury Park boardwalk where his daughter was getting married on the boardwalk by the convention hall. So I was playing music. I wasn't really their DJ, but I became friends of the groom afterwards. So essentially, I DJ'd. A bunch of bikers showed up. They got married while I was doing a remote broadcast.
Listen, Anita Mayu Wilson asking, didn't Squeaky escape for 3 days because she thought Charlie was sick and dying?
Yes, she did escape. That's why she spent 34 years there. And she could get out.
Squeaky was like nickname. A fringe member of the Manson family.
No. She was a very, very main line member of the Manson family. She was at every day of the trial. She shaved her head. She carved a swastika on her in between her eyes. They were crawling on sidewalks and things along those lines just in honor of Charlie and everything else. It was a remarkable, she was not a fringe member. Sarah J. Moore had nothing to do with the Manson family.
How about this?
Charlie the fragrance?
Yeah, Charlie. Olivia on the go. I wonder if he, meaning the accused, the suspect here, missed Dylan because she was inside her dark room and BK's eyes were having trouble adjusting due to adrenaline and brought the LED sign he passed.
I think he was just tired.
Do you think he saw her? Do you think he saw her?
I do think he saw her. I think that he saw her and was exhausted and was like, I got to get out of here. I can't waste any more time. If he was, they have him as being very calculated and that, he studied this and this is what he did. Okay. So you go on that realm and you look at that, then you know how much time you have before you're in trouble, before you're going to, lose that opportunity to get out and get away.
Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The Mod Squad is on the job, helping us to keep it clean. The Mod Squad is on the job, always so nice and never mean.
And a big thanks to our Mod Squad working all the time, not just during the live streams, but between live streams. Gen X, Frankie Figs, Jennifer Stubay, and Ashley Bouchard on the Facebook. And by the way, Frankie Figs posting here a link to the Vinnie Originale True Crime merch shop, which has some great items.
Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. I've got something for your body. For your body. You can wear it by yourself or with Frankie Valli. It's True Crime merch from Vinnie Originale. It's True Crime merch. It's True Crime merch. It's True Crime merch from Vinnie Originale. From Vinnie Originale.
All right. I had to get that word in. Okay, we are almost out of time, boys.
Oh,
It went by fast. I know a lot of folks were focused in today on the Karen Reed trial, so we appreciate you jumping in here during their lunch break. And thank you to April Diaz once again. Here's my have a great week, all. Thanks for playing my song, Vinny. By the way, I have a crush on all three.
ah, yay.
Wait, check this out, Jonesy. I had friends who wrestled for WCW. They all died. This took a dark turn.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a tough life, especially in the modern era where guys expected to take 72 chair shots to the head instead of
And those are real chairs they use, right?
It's a remarkable that mankind is still
props.
alive. I mean, you take a look at what they did, and the hit those steel cage matches, unbelievable.
See, when I was young, though, you could achieve drama by Bruno Sammartino, the good guy, putting the other guy in a bear hug for like 5 minutes.
I love
And
the
we'd be
drama
going
of
nuts.
Chief J Strongbow.
Oh,
What about Ivan Putski with the
Scarpa.
Ivan Putski, the heart
Polish
Polish
power.
power, man of the
That's right.
hour.
the,
All right,
Pol- the Polish the heart punch, knock you right down.
Stan the Man Stasiak.
Stan the Man Stasiak, yeah, of course.
All right,
Of course.
we're out of time, guys.
Oh.
I hate to be the timekeeper at the bell, but I am the timekeeper at the bell. Big thank you to our mod squad. Great job in the chat. Thank you for all the super chats. It's much appreciated. Congratulations to all the new members over on the Court TV YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe on my channel and on the YouTube, on the Court TV YouTube channels. Al, where can folks find you?
Monday night, I'm on a thing called Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan, 8 to 9 on Court TV. You can get me at Legal Weapon 3 on X. And I just say this, hasta la vista, attentionistas.
Jonesy, where can folks find the radio legend?
You can find all of our airtimes, frequencies, archive streams at glennjones.net.
All right. And you can watch me every night, 8 to 10. Of course, 8 to 9 tonight, we'll be talking about Karen Reed. And then 9 to 10, we're going to talk about this story, the Idaho 4 on Vinnie Politan Investigates. That's tonight, 2 hours of live true crime. The only guy on television doing it every night, night after night, week after week, month after month, year after year.
Century after century.
That's right. I've done it for 2 centuries. All right. Say goodnight, Jonesy.
Good night, Jonesy.